Good morning. Let us start our session. So in the previous session, we were discussing about the introduction part of Docker. We understood like what is Docker, and we understood the difference between virtualization and containerization. So the actual difference between the virtualization and containerization is, in virtualization, we will be having a fixed hardware allocation. In containerization, there will be no fixed hardware allocation. And we'll understand what is Docker clearly when we keep on going into the discussions. But for now, we need to understand that Docker is a containerization tool, meaning we are going to run everything in the form of, by using Docker, okay? By using Docker, we are going to run everything in the form of containers. It is a containerization tool because we are going to run applications in the form of containers. Okay, we are going to run our applications in the form of container. That's why it is called as a containerization tool. Fine, we know. Let's go into the discussion of Docker and let's understand how actually the Docker is installed. We know how the Docker gets installed into our Linux machine. Just now I have launched a Linux machine. I've deleted the earlier one which I have launched. So this is the one I have launched freshly. I'm going to connect to this server. So very simple command we use for installing Docker. So that is based on the operating system that we are using. Since I am using this operating system called Amazon Linux, first I'm running a command called sudo -, and I'm going to install Docker in this machine now. So for installation of Docker, I'm running a command called sudo install docker-y. This is the command I'm running so that Docker gets installed into your machine. Docker gets installed. How to verify? Usually, we can verify by running a command called docker space -- version. This is the command we use for verifying Docker version is installed or not. Yes, Docker version got installed. Docker is installed here. Right. If the Docker is installed, we need to test. We can test it by just pulling some image. We can pull some image. We have a Docker image. I told that we have a registry called Docker Hub. There is a registry called Docker Hub. There will be a registry called Docker Hub. This is a public registry. And you can just go hub.docker.com. This is the website, okay? Hub.docker.com. We can go to this website and we can search for the images whichever we require. Suppose if I want an image called Jenkins image, if I want to run Jenkins in the form of Docker container, I want to run Jenkins in the form of a Docker container. So I'm going to this public registry. I'm searching for Jenkins. So here we have lots of Jenkins images. Many Jenkins images are available, but it's it's up to us to choose. It's up to us, like we can choose any of the image, but always the right decision is like having the number of pulls. The image which is having more number of pulls. We always used to pick the images from here, which is having the more number of pulls. You see here, the more number of pulls are for this image, Jenkins/Jenkins. So I'm just copying this command, going to run this command here in my local machine. When I'm running this command, I'm getting this error, cannot connect to the Docker daemon. If you are facing this error, just run a command called doc systemctl. I told you, I think we already had a discussion on this. But again, we just need to run a command called systemctl. If it shows like cannot connect to the Docker daemon, please run a command called systemctl start docker. Systemctl start docker. Sorry, systemctl start docker. Just run this command, systemctl. Can run a command called sudo systemctl start docker. Let's try with this command. I think now we can try with this. Docker pull Jenkins slash Jenkins. You see here, earlier it was not working. Earlier it was not working. Like it was showing like cannot connect to the Docker daemon. But whenever I ran a command called systemctl start Docker, okay, then the Docker service, this particular command is mainly for starting the Docker service. Installation is different. So we have installed the Docker. After installation, if you want to start the Docker service, after installation, if you want to start the Docker service, please run a command called systemctl start Docker. This is the command we run. And if you want to see the list of Docker images, if you want to see the list of Docker images, just run a command called docker images ls. What happened? Yes. You can see here, I'm just running a command called docker images. We can run either this one, okay, docker images to see the list of images. If we want to see the list of images, then we can run a command called docker space images. This is the command we use to see the list of images. Otherwise, we can also use a command called docker images. We can also run a command called docker images. You see, even if you run docker images command also, it will show the list. It will show the list of images. Either Either you can run a command called docker images or docker image ls. Both are same. Docker image ls or docker images. This command will show you the list of images that are available. So anyhow, what we are doing is we are pulling some image. Okay, we are downloading some image from the Docker Hub. Okay, and we are just verifying like whether the image is downloaded or not. Yes, the image got downloaded. Now the image is downloaded. Okay, this is how the image we are able to see here. When I'm running a command called docker image ls, this is how the image I'm able to see here. Fine, if I'm seeing this image like this, what I'm going to do with this image? What I'm going to do with this image? I'm going to do, like, I'm going to run this image as a container. If I have the Docker image, if I have the Docker image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this Docker image as a container. Always remember, if you want to run anything, if you want to run any application in the container, suppose consider we have an online bookstore application. If you want to run online bookstore application as a container, you need online bookstore Docker image. That's why we were doing earlier what we were doing. Once the artifact is generated, our aim is to convert that artifact into Docker image. Once we have the Docker image, once we have the Docker image, what we can do is we can run the Docker image as a container. We can run the Docker image as a container. So now I have a Jenkins image. You see, I have the Jenkins image. How to run this Jenkins image? So I can run this Jenkins image by running a command called docker run image name. What is the image name? Jenkins. If I want to run this image as a container, yes, docker run Jenkins slash Jenkins. I can simply run a command called docker run Jenkins slash Jenkins. Okay. We can run a command called docker run Jenkins slash Jenkins. So that Jenkins image will be run as a container. We can run the Jenkins image as a container and we can see whether Jenkins is up and running or not. We can see Jenkins is up and running or not. Fine. So what we will do is, let's see, you can see here, we have we need to learn many things. Okay. We need to learn many things. Like we have some Docker commands. We are going to learn about Docker commands, like how to pull all the Docker commands starts with the Docker keyword. If I want to pull any image, we are going to pull the image name we are going to pull the image like this, Docker pull image name. To see the list of images, we use Docker images. Okay. So like this, like that, we have many commands. So all these commands we will learn. Okay. When we keep on going, you'll understand. Like when we use all these commands and all, you will understand. Let's understand like how to create a container. If I have a container, if I have a Docker image, how to run that into Docker image. You see, I am just taking an example of this one. I'm just taking an example of this one. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run Jenkins image as a Jenkins container. If I have the Docker image, usually what we will do is we will run Jenkins we will run the image so that the container will be created. We will run the image so that the container will be created. So to see what is the container and all, let me show you what I'm doing is I am going to remove all these things. -D I will remove. The port number I will remove. And I will remove this hyphen name my Jenkins. Okay, all these things. You can see now this is the command we use, docker run Jenkins/Jenkins. If I have a Docker image and if I want to run the Docker image into Docker container, definitely we will run that with the help of this command, docker run Jenkins/Jenkins. If I run this command, Jenkins container will be created. But we need to add few more options for our we need to add few more options. Okay, why? Because you see here, let me show you. So once the Jenkins container is created, how to access the Jenkins container? We need to access the Jenkins container on some port number. So that's why we can specify the port number here. If you want to specify the port number, you need to add -P option. You can add -P. What is the port number you want to assign? Suppose if I want to assign a port number called 9090 and the default port number is 8080. We all know the Jenkins default port number is what? The Jenkins default port number is 8080. And I would like to assign a port number called 9090. So from this, what you understood, Docker run image name. I'm going to run the image. So once this image, if I run this image, it will become a container. So once it become a container, I'm going to access this image on some port number. What is the port number? So the port number that I am going to access this is, I'm going to access this on port number called 9090. I will be accessing this one on the port number called 9090. And the default port number of Jenkins is 8080. You see the default port number. The default port number of this one is 8080. And I'm accessing the port. I'm going to access this port on 9090. So Docker run. Okay, this is the image name. Docker run. This is the image name. And the port number I'm using is this one, -P. 9090 is the port number. 9090 is the port number that I just wanted to use, okay? But the default port number is 8080. So this is the port number that you wanted to access. And this is the default port number. Okay? And now what I'm doing is, if I want to run this command, usually I can see the log messages on the Jenkins. Okay, if I just run this command, I'll see the log messages, everything on my terminal itself. I don't want to see anything on my terminal. I don't want to see any log messages on my terminal. So if I don't want to see any log messages on my terminal, just I can specify an option called -D here. I can specify an option called -D. -D stands for detached mode. You see, in this particular command, I'm just trying to explain what is happening in this particular command. Even without all these things also, you can just run a command. You see, docker run Jenkins/Jenkins. You can just run this command. Not at all a problem. So once you run this command, container will be created. You see, the docker run Jenkins/Jenkins. Container is created. It is asking, it is giving the password. And you can directly go ahead and connect to the container. Okay. So, but this is not the right approach, okay? Whenever you run a container, you need to specify the port number, all those things, okay? This is not the right approach. So, what I'm doing is directly, instead of running the command directly, what I'm doing is, I'm connecting once again to the terminal. So, you can see now, Docker images command. I'm just running Docker images command. This is the only image that I'm having now. If you want to see the containers running or not, yes, I can run a command called docker container ls. Can you see this is the container that is created now? you want to see the list of images, you can see the list of images by running a command called docker images ls or docker images. And if you want to see the list of containers, we can run a command called docker container ls so that you can see the list of containers. This is the container just now I have created. Okay, but I don't want to create the container like this. There is a standard approach of creating a container. I ran a command like docker run Jenkins/Jenkins. Even if you run that command also, container will be created. But I want to I want to delete this one. Okay, I just wanted to delete it. If I want to delete anything, okay, if I want to delete anything, we can delete. Let's see, right? If I want to delete anything, we can delete by running a command called show you. We can run a command called docker remove. First we need to start with like docker stop. We need, if the container is running, okay, the container is running. I think we can stop the docker container first of all. How to stop the docker container? You see, what is the status of docker container? You can see the docker container status, like it is showing like status is up. This docker container is running. The status of this docker container is up. 54 seconds ago, it was up. So if you want to stop the container, you can run a command called docker stop by giving the container ID so that the container will be stopped. You can see the status now. Okay. You can see the status now by giving a command called docker container ls. Do we have any containers now? Do we have any running containers? No, we don't have any running containers. Try to understand. See, whenever I just ran a command called docker container ls, that time I could able to see the container because it was running container. So with the help of docker container ls, we can see all the running containers. We can see the running containers. Later, I ran a command to stop this container. Docker stop the container ID. Each and every container will have some container ID. How to see that? You can give docker container ls command to see the details of each and every container. This is the container ID, and I have given like this docker stop container ID so that the container is stopped. Again, when I'm running docker container ls, it is not showing any list of containers, no running containers. But if you want to see all the running containers as well as stopped containers, you can run a command called docker ps. You can run a command called docker ps-a. Docker ps-a. To see all the list of running containers as well as stopped containers, you can run a command called docker ps-a so that it will display. So this container was exited. This container was exited. It was exited about a minute ago, but still it is showing with the command called docker ps-a. So even if we want to see the list of running containers as well as stopped containers, okay, to see all the containers, all the list of containers, we can run a command called docker ps-a so that we can see all the list of containers. This is the command I'm running. Okay, docker ps-a is the command I'm using to see the list of all running containers as well as stopped containers. Right. Now, if I want to remove this, I can remove by running a command called docker rm the container ID. Docker rm. Rm stands for remove. Rm stands for remove. We are going to remove this container. Either you can use the container ID or otherwise we can also use the name of the container. We have not provided any name to the container. I will tell you later how to provide a name to the container. But for now, we can remove this by using a container ID by running a command called docker remove the container ID. I'm just running this command. You see, docker remove container ID. To remove the container, we can use a command called docker remove container ID. So we are removing it to verify whether it is removed or not. Again, we can run a command Docker ps hyphen a. Docker ps hyphen a is used to see the list of running containers as well as stopped containers. If you want to see all the containers, if you want to see all the containers, both running as well as stopped, if you want to see all the containers, both running as well as stopped, you want to see the running containers, you want to see both the running containers as well as stopped, yes, you can give a command called docker ps-a. It is not displaying any of the containers now. And what about the images? Image will be there. We can run a command called docker images. And when you run the Docker images, it is showing the Docker image. Suppose if you want to remove the image also from here, you can also, if you want to remove the Docker image also, you can run the Docker image by running a command called docker rmi. You can also remove the Docker image from here by just running a command called docker rmi, the image name. RMI stands for remove image. RM stands for remove. RMI stands for remove image. If you want to remove the images, we can use this command RMI, remove images. Yes, you can now verify by running a command called docker images. We don't have any images here. Okay, just running clear command to clear the screen. For now, we don't have any docker images. For now, we don't have any docker images. Okay, I just pulled the Jenkins/Jenkins image, deleted it. Okay, I just pulled the Jenkins/Jenkins image, ran as a container, and I deleted it. But now we see some additional options while running the container. Okay, how to run the container and all. Hope you understood the basic thing. But let's see again once again. So what I'm doing is I'm going to run a container. Okay, I'm going to pull the image. What I'm doing is docker pull Jenkins/Jenkins. You know, right? Why I'm using this command? I don't know the image name of Jenkins is Jenkins/Jenkins. But if I go to the Docker Hub, when I'm trying to pull the Docker image from here, it is clearly showing the Docker image name is Docker pull. So this is the image name Jenkins/Jenkins. I'm copying it. I'm going to run it here. That is how I'm downloading the Jenkins/Jenkins image. Once it is downloaded, okay, once the image is downloaded, you can verify whether the image is downloaded or not by just running a command called docker images command. Can you see when I'm running docker images command, it is clearly showing this image was downloaded. It is there, it is available. This image is available. Just now we got downloaded this image, we got pulled this image from the Docker Hub. Now, once the image is available, we can run the image into a container. We can run the image so that it will become a container. Okay. How to run the image? Just by running a command called docker run. Okay. Just by running a command. So docker run, the image name is what? So what are the important things that you need to understand to run the image as a container? Suppose if I want to run the image as a container, we can use a command called docker run. We can run the image by like this. Okay, docker run. This is the image name I'm giving. Docker run image name. Docker run image name. Along with these things, we should also specify the port number on which port number I would like to access Jenkins. Suppose consider I am giving 9090, and this is how I am giving the port number. This is the pattern that we need to give for assigning the port number. -p. We are using an option. Okay, we are just using a variable called -p here. What is -p here? -p is used for assigning some port number. If I want to assign a port number, I am assigning the port number called 9090 colon 8080. 8080 is the default port number. 9090 is the port number that I am assigning. 9090 is the port number that I am assigning. Colon 8080 is the port number that the default port number of the Jenkins. Okay. And one more thing, I told you like -d option. I am also adding -d option. -d stands for detached mode. Usually, if without this option, if I run this command, without -d option, if I run the command, so all the log messages will be printed on the terminal itself. So I don't want all the log messages to print on my terminal. I want all the log messages to print to run on the background. All the log messages to be run on the background. I don't want all the log messages to be printed on my terminal. To avoid that, I'm using -d detached mode, meaning I'm asking leave my terminal and run all the messages and all the logs on the back in the background. Okay, I'm asking like leave my terminal and run all the log messages in the background. That's what the meaning of -d. -d stands for detached mode. Detached mode. We can also we can also give some name to the container. Okay, we can also give some name to the container. What is the name that we can provide? Hyphen name. We can also give some name to the container by, see here. We can also give some name to the container. Okay, hyphen name. This is the syntax that we need to use. Hyphen name. Hyphen name. If you want to provide some name to this one, I'm providing the name as my Jenkins. You can provide anything. Okay, this is not mandatory. Like you have to provide my Jenkins only. You can provide your application. So I just wanted, I'm going to run a Jenkins image so that it will become a Jenkins container. This is the image name. And if you want to provide some name to the container, yes, you can provide some name to the container. This is the name of the container that I'm providing. Hyphen name, my Jenkins. What is the container name? This is the name of the container we are providing in the command. Hope you understood what I'm doing is okay. Remove this, try to understand. I'm going to run a command called Jenkins/Jenkins. Jenkins/Jenkins is the image name. If I use Docker run image name, it will become a container. So before I run this command, I'm adding few things. -p option is mainly for assigning the port number. So here I'm assigning the port number called 9090 colon. The default port number is 8080. This is how the port number is to be attached for the Jenkins container. Along with that, I'm also using an option called -d. -d stands for detached mode. Okay, to avoid the logs printed on this console. Okay, it will print the logs. When you give -d, all the log messages will run in the background. It will not print on the terminal. And along with this, if you want to provide any name to the container, yes, we can also use an option called -hyphen name. My Jenkins is the name I'm giving. My Jenkins is the name of the container I'm providing. Okay, this is the name of the container. This is the port number I'm assigning. -d for detached mode. I'm asking to leave the messages to run the messages on the background, not on my terminal. So I'm just running this command. You see, when I'm running this command, what happens? I'm just running a command. You see, it is not printing any log messages. Usually, if I do not provide -d, suppose if -d is not here, it will show all the log messages, whether Jenkins is started or it is giving the password, everything it will display. But now it is not giving anything, you see. It is not giving anything. It is not giving anything. Now, how to see whether my Jenkins is up and running or not? How can I check? Yes. I always told you so. In wherever your Jenkins container is running, you see here in this machine, your Jenkins container is running. Okay. So now I'm going to take the public IP of it. I'll collect the public IP, colon. What is the port number that I have assigned for the Jenkins? Yes, 9090. Usually the default port number is 8080, but I have assigned some different port. So 9090 is the port number that I have given. So if the container is running, you should able to access the container now, but make sure you need to enable the port numbers. If the port numbers are not enabled, communication will not take place. For enabling the port numbers, you need to go to the security groups. Here, edit inbound rules. The port number that you have provided is, okay, the port number you have provided is for the TCP, the port number. You can give custom TCP. The port number that you have provided is 9090. Anywhere IPv4, save the rule. I have enabled one more rule called 9090. I have enabled the port number called 9090. Now you can see I am able to access the Jenkins. Earlier, we have seen how to install the Jenkins. How can we access the Jenkins? In the same way, we are running Jenkins in the form of a Docker container. Nothing is there. We are going to run applications in the form of a Docker container. Hope you understood. Earlier, we have installed the Jenkins on some server, and we tried accessing in the same way by taking the public IP of the server, port number, in the same way only we are. But now we are we are trying to access this Jenkins application in the form of a Docker container. Now I am accessing this Jenkins application in the form of a Docker container. So what is the prerequisite? If I want to run any application in the form of a Docker container, I should have a Docker image. I should have a Docker image. If I have the Docker image, I can run the image. I can run the image so that it will become a container. We can access the container on some port number. Make sure you need to enable those port numbers on your server where you are running the containers. If you are running the Docker container here, you need to enable the port number. Okay, if you are running if you are going to run the containers on some machine, you need to enable those port numbers for those containers. So now find that is fine. Our Jenkins container is running. Okay, we see here our Jenkins container is up and running. How can we see whether the container is created or not? Anyhow, we have seen here the real time itself. We have seen like how we are accessing the container and all. This is our container only. We are accessing this because the container is up and running. We are accessing this Jenkins because the container is up and running. Okay. So if I stop the container, okay, how to see whether the containers are, what is the command that I told you to see your containers, active containers as well as stopped containers? You can run a command called docker ps-a. You can run a command called docker ps-a to see your containers actually. So I'm just running a command called docker ps-a to see the list of containers. Either you can see, okay, you can see this is the command that we are able to see, right? Here we are able to see some containers. This is one docker ps-a is the command that I'm using to see the list of containers, both running as well as stopped containers. The container is up 3 minutes back. Okay. And if I want to stop the containers, I can stop the container. Docker stop. Removing is different, okay? Stopping is different. If I want to stop the container for some time, yes, you can stop the container for some time. There are two ways to stop the container. Either you can use a command, you can run the command called docker stop. You can use container ID as well as name of the, what is the name of the container? My Jenkins is the name of the container. If you remember, we have provided some name to the container. My Jenkins is the name of the container. So I can run just a command called docker stop my Jenkins. This is the command I am running so that my Jenkins container will be stopped. And if it is stopped, then you can try to access it once again. You see, I'm just trying to access this. Just now I stopped the container, but I'm trying to access it after stopping it. Now let's see what is the state. Still, it is not stopped. Actually, we'll see the status here. Docker ps-a. Yes, it is exited 24 seconds ago. And now you see here, it is not reaching. It is not reaching. Why? Just because I stopped the container and it is not reaching. So I'm able to access this Jenkins because my container is running. And again, I'm going to start it. Docker start. What is the container? This is my Jenkins, right? My Jenkins is the container. I'm just going to start it once again. Docker start my Jenkins. And you can see the status by running a command called docker ps-a. It was up just 4 seconds ago. Again, you can start accessing it by just clicking on reload. Same thing. I'm just trying to access it on same one. I'm able to access. Okay. So, but now I don't know the password. Okay. I ran the container. The container is running. That is fine. But I am trying to access the Jenkins. But I want to know this password. Okay. Where this password is residing. This is the path. I have to go inside the where folder, Jenkins folder, secrets folder, initial admin password. Once after going into this path, I will see my password and I will provide the password. I can run. I can click on continue. So how to go inside this path? Okay. How to see the password and all. Let's see here. So if my container is running, you see, okay, this is my container. My Jenkins is the container. If I want to go inside the container, okay, this is my application. This is my system. This is my machine. root at the rate IP address. This is my machine. Inside the machine, I have Jenkins container is running. I want to go inside the Jenkins container. Okay. I want to go inside the Jenkins container, meaning I want to go inside the application, inside the Jenkins application. How to go? So you can run a command called docker execute. We can run a command called docker execute -it. I'll tell you what is the meaning of docker execute -it. And I'm going to provide the name of the container. This is the name of the container. Okay. This is the name of the container. Okay. You see now, I just ran a command called docker execute -it, the container name. Okay. So I would like to go inside the container. If I would like to go inside the container, we will run a command called docker execute -it. Meaning, IT stands for -it stands for interactive terminal. I would like to interact with the Jenkins container. If you want to interact with the Jenkins container, you need to run a command called docker execute -it. Docker execute -it. -it stands for interactive terminal. My Jenkins is the name of the container. Okay. And I would like to connect this in the bash mode. Okay. I would like to connect this container on the bash mode. That's why I'm giving /bin/bash at the end. So you need to provide this one /bin/bash at the end to connect to the container at the in the bash mode. So now you see here the terminal is changed. Earlier the terminal was showing like root at the rate IP address. Now the terminal is showing like Jenkins at the rate some container ID. Jenkins at the rate some container ID. You see, this is the container ID. This is my container ID. You can compare. This is my container ID. I am inside the container now. I can access the password. Okay, I can access the password. You can just copy this path. You can just copy this path. You can paste it over here. To see the password, okay, to print the password, you can just run a command called cat space the path name, cat space the path name, cat space. Okay, inside the var folder, inside Jenkins folder, secrets folder, we have initial admin password. This is the password. I'm just running the cat space this full path. So it is giving the password. I'm copying this path. I'm copying this path and providing this path here at the administrator password. I'm going to click on continue. That's it. So hope you understood. Like if I want to go inside the container and if I want to communicate with the container, if I want to see the password or if I want to see the folders inside the container, I can see by just running a command called docker execute -it. I can see just by running a command called docker execute -it, I can interact with the container. Hope you understood like what we are doing with the help of Docker. So first we are downloading the Docker. We should have the Docker image. All these things to happen, we should have the Docker image. If I have the Docker image, I can run the Docker image so that it will become a container. Okay, once it become a container, we will understand how to give some additional options while running the container. Okay, we'll give, suppose to come out of the container. See, now I'm inside the container, right? Now I am inside the container. You can give ls command. What are all the files present inside the Jenkins container? This is the Jenkins container. I am inside the Jenkins container. You see, these are the file system that is present inside the Jenkins container. Okay, you can navigate between the files. Just now we have gone inside the var folder. Where is var folder? You can see the var folder here. This is the var folder. You can give a command called cd space var. Inside the var folder, you can give ls command. Inside the var folder, we have Jenkins/home, and you can give Jenkins_home ls command. These are the files present inside the one. And now you can, if you want to see the password, what is the path? Secrets. Where is the secrets folder? This is the secrets folder, right? If you want to go for the folder, cd space secrets, ls command. And again, you have some files here. And if you want to see the password, you can see the password just by running a command called cat space initial admin password. Yes, I'm able to see this one. I'm running a command called cat space this file name. Okay, I'm able to see. Okay, I'm able to see the password. This is the password of the file. This is how I'm doing. Okay. And if I want to log out, okay, if I want to come out of the container, how to come out of the container? You can simply give exit command to come out of the container. Once I give the exit command, I'm coming out of the container. I'm able to see the operating system. This is my root level. This is my terminal. Okay, root at the IP address. Now I am at my operating system level. Earlier I was at my container level. Now I am at my operating system level as a root user. Hope you got it, like how we are coming out and all. I've shown you like how to remove the containers, all those things. Yes, you can remove the containers by just running a command called. If the container is running, you don't want to remove if you don't want it. If you want to remove, you just need the container ID. Okay. First of all, you can give a command docker ps-a. This is the only container that is running. It is up 7 minutes back. It was up and running. If you want to remove it, docker rm. If you don't want to stop the container, okay. If you want to remove the running container, the container is running, but you want to remove it. So you tried with docker rm command, docker rm, the container name. This is the container name, my Jenkins. Okay, docker rm my Jenkins is the container name. You are trying with this command. You are getting some error. You see, whenever you are running this command, docker rm the container name, if you are getting some error. Why? Because the container is running. You cannot remove the running containers. You cannot remove the running containers. I'm just running a command called docker rm Jenkins, docker rm my Jenkins. While removing my Jenkins container, I'm showing some, it is displaying some error like container is running and you cannot stop the container before removing. You cannot stop the container if it is running. So that time you can run one more command like docker rm-f forcibly. You can remove the container by forcibly. Docker remove -f my Jenkins. Yes, you can remove the container forcibly. If it is showing some error, we cannot remove. Yes, you can run docker rm-f by forcibly. You can remove. Now you can see docker ps-a. You can able to see now docker ps-a. There are no containers. Containers are deleted. And you can also remove the images by running a command called docker rmi. We need the image name. To see the images name, we can give docker images. This is the image name, Jenkins/Jenkins. You can run a command called docker rmi. Rmi stands for remove image. Okay, RMI stands for remove image. Jenkins/Jenkins is the one. Jenkins/Jenkins is the image name that I am using. So I'm using docker RMI Jenkins/Jenkins. So the image will be deleted. Image will be deleted. Now you can give docker images command to see. We don't have any images over here. Everything is deleted. I'm just clearing the screen. Hope you understood. What I'm doing is like I'm just pulling the image. You can see not only for Jenkins, okay? We can do it for any other things. We can do it for any other things. Like you see, I'm just going to the Docker Hub public registry. If you want to install Nexus, okay? If you want to install Nexus. So just go for Nexus, okay? Search for the Nexus. Okay, search for the Nexus. So I'm going to pull an image called docker/nexus. Okay, I'm just pulling this image. Copy this image, okay? Copy this image. Pull it here. I don't have any images so far. Now I'm going to pull a new image called docker/nexus. This is the Nexus image that I'm pulling. I am pulling this image. Let's see. We have many images. Maybe you can pull any of the image. Okay, you can pull it. It is up to you. You can pull any of the image which is having more number of pulls. But I just pulled some image which is available in the beginning. Okay, docker/nexus is the one I have. Okay. Okay, now I have just pulled this next image. So to see the list of images, we can run a command called docker images. Sorry. I'm just running a command called docker images to see the list of images. Okay, docker images. This is the only image that I'm having. Once I have the image, what I need to do, docker run and you can run a command called docker. You can use this image name. Okay, this is the image name. Docker run the image name. If you have the Docker image and if you are going to run a command called docker run image name, then it will become a container. Before you run this command, I told you like you need to assign some port number. Okay, I'm going to assign a port number called 909. You can assign, it is up to you. Okay, any four-digit number you can assign. But the default port number of Nexus is 8081. Okay, if you remember, what is the default port number of Nexus? Default port of Nexus is 8081. That's the reason why I'm assigning like this. 8081 is the default port. I am assigning 9091. And I'm just giving hyphen D option to see to avoid the log messages. And if you want to provide any name to the container, just hyphen name, hyphen name, port number, hyphen name, my Nexus. I'm just giving a command. I'm just giving some name to the container called my Nexus. This is the command I'm giving. I'm running it. So Nexus container is started. How to see? We can run a command called docker ps-a to see the containers. Yes, this is the container that is just now I started this container, but it is not exited because maybe it requires more space. So I'm running this. I'm running all these things within the t2.micro machine. So t2.micro machine, if it is not the space is not required, it will show like it exited only. Otherwise, if there are any issue with the Docker image also, it will show like that only. Okay, if that is the case, you can try with some different images. Okay, you can try with some different images. You can remove that one and you can try with some different images, which is having. Okay, now I'm just copying this image. Sona type next. You can try with different image called Sona type nexus. Pulling this image called Sona type nexus. Okay, maybe see if you see here, you are not able to see the exact status. I'm trying to run this image, but it is going into the exited state because maybe there might be an issue with the image or the space is not sufficient to run the container. Okay, in that case, it is showing the similar, it is showing the kind of errors. So now I have pulled another image to see the images available. I am running Docker images. I have two images now, docker t/nexus. I don't want this docker t/nexus. I would like to remove this docker t/nexus. So to remove the docker t/nexus, I am running a command called docker rmi docker t/nexus. RMI. Okay. So why am I unable to remove this image is the container, I just ran it as a container. So that's the reason why it is not getting deleted. Why? Because the image is being used by some container. So now that's the reason why I'm deleting forcibly. Docker RMI -f docker t/nexus. Now it is deleted. Okay, it is removed. Now you can try by giving a command called docker images. I have only this image docker. Sona type/nexus is the only image that is available in my machine now. I'm going to run as a container docker run Sona type/nexus. Docker run Sona type/nexus. And I would like to add some options here. -p. Anyhow, 9091 is already used. I'm going to use 9092 port number. Okay, I'm trying to use a different port number. So 9092, so far I didn't use. So 8081 is the port number that default port number of Nexus. And name, you need to provide -d option to avoid the log messages. And if you want to provide some name, you can provide some name to the container like my Nexus. I'm just giving my Nexus. Okay, my Nexus is the name that is already being used, and I'm going to create a new one by giving my Nexus one. Okay, this is created. Okay, 9092 port number I'm using for this Nexus. Okay, I would like to access the Nexus. Let's see now. You can see the status by running docker ps-a to see the processes which are running, which are not running. This process is running. You see, 16 seconds ago it started. Again, you can verify whether it is exited or not. Yes, 23 seconds ago it was started and it is up. The status is up 23 seconds ago. So it is up and running. If it is showing like exited, it is not up and running. Okay. If you want to remove this one, anyhow, we don't need this one, right? If you want to remove this one, you can remove, right? You can remove docker rm my nexus. We don't need that one. Okay. My nexus. Now the running one is my nexus one. Okay. The running one is mine access one. We have only one container which is running. It was created 53 seconds ago. Now, if I want to access this, what is the process? I'll go to the server. I'll try to access the public IP, copy the public IP, go here, provide the public IP in the browser, colon. The port number that I have given for it is 9092. So if it is not usually if it is not accessible, why? Because you have to open the port number. Where you have to open the port number, go to the security. Go to inbound rules here. Okay, security groups. Edit inbound rules. You need to add the rule. The port number that you have opened is 9092. First, anywhere IPv4. Save the rule. Try to see here now. We will be okay. We can access. Yes, I can able to access the access. Okay, I'm able to access it because maybe some issue with the image, maybe some issue with the Docker image. That's the reason why I could not able to access it. But this is the process actually. We can able to see the Nexus page. If you are not able to see all these things, this is an issue with the image. We need to see whether the proper image. We need to verify whether we are using the proper image, correct image, which is responding or not. Okay. So if we are not able to see the output, then better we can go for correcting the image, and we will try it once again. So these are the default images we are trying. These are the images like available in the Docker Hub registry. We are using them. Usually we can customize our own Docker images also. We can customize our Docker images. So in the next session, what we are going to understand is we will understand how to write a Docker file. The very important thing that we are going to understand in the next section is how to write a Docker file and how we are going to um, build the Docker file. Okay, how to write a Docker file, how to build the Docker file, and how to create our customized Docker images. All these things we are going to understand in the further discussions. So hope you understood now what is a basic objective of Docker. Main objective of Docker is like we will be having Docker images. We can run the Docker images. They will become containers. So if the container is running, it is nothing but our application is running. Okay. The container is running, the application is running. You can see here, all the containers running here. If I'm giving Docker ps-a, all the containers that are running here, all these containers, they are not depending on the operating system. If the container is running, it is nothing but our application is running. Usually, if application is running, that application will be depending on the operating system. But if a Docker container is running, it is not depending, the Docker container is not depending on the operating system. Docker container itself will run as a part of OS program. So how OS programs are running directly on the hardware, in the same way, these Docker containers will also run on top of hardware directly. There is no mediator. So usually, if I want to install any application in our Windows operating system, on top of Windows operating system, we will install some browsers or all other applications. So whenever we run that application, the request will goes to the operating system. From the operating system, the request will goes to the hardware. But here, coming to the concept of Docker, if you install Docker, on top of Docker, you can run any containers. You can run the Docker containers. So if the Docker container is running, it is nothing but it is not running on top of the operating system. If Docker container is running, we need to assume that it is not running on top of the operating system. It is running as a operating system program. Docker container is running as an operating system program. So there is no dependency on the operating system. So Docker came into the picture to avoid the dependency on the operating system. Okay, we don't want the delays and latencies, and we want the process to be very faster. That's why the containers, Docker containers we are running here, they are not depending on the operating system. And one more point I told you. So these Docker containers, whenever they are running, during that time only, they will consume the hardware. So the Docker container is running now. You see the Sonar type Nexus. Okay, this Docker container, my Nexus 1 container is running now. So this container will consume the hardware only at the time that it is up and running. If it is not running, it won't consume any hardware. If it is in the form of image, it won't consume any hardware. Okay, only at the time of running only it will consume the hardware. But our normal regular applications, which are installed on our operating system, though the application is in the running state or not, it will consume some part of hardware. That is the difference that we need to understand. Anyhow, fine. We will discuss what is a Docker file, how to create a Docker file, all those things in the upcoming sessions. Any questions? Any questions you have? Any questions, Monica?
No, Vamshi.
Okay. Thank you. Let's meet the tomorrow session.